Welcome to Design Downtime, the podcast where we celebrate the joys of living a balanced creative life. I'm your host, Guy Siegel, a design director in Toronto, Canada, and I invite you to join me on this journey as we redefine what it means to be a successful design professional. Let's break free from the shackles of hustle culture and embrace the full spectrum of human experience, because life is too precious to be spent only in pursuit of productivity. Today, I'm thrilled to talk to Mike Monteiro. Mike is the co-founder and design director of Mule. He writes and speaks frequently about the craft, ethics, and business of design. He's written a bunch of books, including Design as a Job, Ruined by Design, and the brand new How to Die and Other Stories, which is only tangentially about design. He lives in San Francisco with his wife Erika and their dog Rupert. He has been buying vinyl his entire life and currently has about 4,000 records. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Guy, how you doing?
I am very well and super excited to talk to you about vinyl and music.
I'm super happy to be here, and I'm super excited to be talking about anything other than design.
Your incredible vinyl collection, before we started, you showed me your room, the room you're in, your office.
This is not an office. This is the music room.
Your music temple, where you indeed have the walls lined up with vinyl.
You know, it's a testament to Victorian craftsmanship that these have not crashed through to the downstairs apartment. I mean, if you're familiar with Victorian furniture at all, that shit was heavy, which is how I knew like it would be safe to put my records here, because I don't think 4,000 records weigh as much as a Victorian dresser. I had the records and I thought I got to put these somewhere. So yeah, this room it is. This is the music room. It's in the front of the house, and it's the room that gets all the sun. A couple of years ago during lockdown, I repainted the whole thing. Its room is yellow and pink, and there's records everywhere. I get very happy when I sit here listening to stuff. We both do.
I've known audiophiles who need to have a very...
I'm not an audiophile. Oh, God.
I didn't say you are. Those are other people. And those other people, they were very particular about where they sit in the room, how the room is organized. I'm getting a sense that's less of an issue for you.
Yeah, so I find those people exhausting. I mean, those are the people who tell you that there's like a perfect way to do a thing, a perfect way to listen to a record. Oh my God, you don't have the right speaker wire. You don't have the right speakers. You don't have the right needle. Those people are exhausting. I love listening to records, and I think everybody who loves listening to music, however they listen to it is great. And if records are your jam, however you're listening to them is fine. Even if you have like one of those little suitcase record players, like how many people got their start with like a little suitcase record player? You know, the ones where like the cover is also the speaker?
Yep.
And, they don't sound great. However, if that's what you got, like in your dorm room or whatever, and that's what's bringing you joy, like I love that.
Yeah. If I'm listening to a 4-track recording of an early Guided by Voices song, I don't need to have the most advanced speaker to play it on.
I mean, that stuff probably sounds better coming out of like a tin can with a wire attached to it, quite honestly.
Probably recorded on a tin can as well.
Exactly. Like, I do not like people who tell other people that they're being happy the wrong way, which is kind of like the definition of an audiophile.
Yeah, you're doing something you love wrong.
Right. Zero patience for that.
Let's get into this, because usually the first question I like to ask is the origin story. Obviously, you did not walk down the street and found a truck full of 4,000 vinyl records. Where did it start for you?
I mean, I've been buying records since I was a kid. Back when, they came with that little sticker on them that said the nice price, and they were $7.98. I've always loved listening to music. My parents had one of those amazing, like they had this weird console in their house that had a record player in it. They had a record player. It's like, it had like, it was a cabinet with 2 openings at the top. The opening on the left had a bar. Opened it up, a light would go on, and there would be like a bar that you pulled out with, bottles and glasses and stuff. If you opened up the right cabinet, it was a record player. And it was one of those record players with a really tall spindle. I'm showing you this with my hands because this is an audio podcast and this is really smart. But it had one of those tall spindles where you could like stack like 5 records at a time, and one would finish and the needle would go back and the second one would drop. At the bottom of this console, there was a fake fireplace. Logs made out of plastic with this thing behind this revolving thing behind it that looked like flames. This was like prime 70s furniture. That was technically, I guess, my first record player was my parents, and they listen to stuff, and they like every kid, like the first record you listen to was one of your parents' records, and they had the regular tastes of people that age, and eventually you're like, okay, I've listened to enough of this shit, and you get the inkling of other music out there that other kids are listening to. And this being in the 70s, it was, objectively bad. Jesus, I think the first record I bought was maybe a Kansas record, but it was the time. Then you've got your little stack of records in your room that you take out and play on your parents' record player. I remember my mom throwing out a couple of them because she had issues with them, which meant I had to start hiding them better. Eventually I did. I got one of those little suitcase record players in my room. And, headphones are incredibly important at that age, especially when your parents are like policing your activities and, afraid of what you might be turning into. So you got to get yourself a pair of headphones. So I had like a gigantic pair of cans with like the twirly wire that was popular on phones at the time. I would just sit in my room and listen to my records like really loud and probably destroying my hearing. And that's the origin story. Back then, there were record stores at the mall. So you go to like Sam Goody and get a record. And, eventually, like you start, gravitating towards the weirder records and, eventually the weirder record stores. And suddenly you're at Sound of Market in downtown Philly and you see a section for like English imports or British imports. That's when, things really started going downhill.
What pushed you down the hill?
I remember being in high school at the record store and seeing a Smiths record, Meat is Murder, Meat is Murder. And I was like, what is this? This is weird. Why is this soldier? Why are there 4 soldiers on the cover? Why is Meat is Murder written on the soldier's helmet? And I was like, oh man, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. So I got it. I took it home and it was like, whoa, this is different. And I think after that, I have very distinct memories of the first Violent Femmes record, which came out when I was in high school, and listening to that. And it was like, what the fuck is this? Holy shit. Yeah, that's the origin story.
So you started buying records?
Yeah, I started buying records because records was what you bought at the time. If you wanted to listen to music, you bought a record. I vaguely remember my dad having an 8-track player in his car. So, and he had a few 8-tracks in his glove box. So we were just kind of getting off of the 8-track. By the way, there was an 8-track player in the big console that they had. Like under the record player was an 8-track player. So there were still some of those in the house. But this was before cassettes really hit. By that time, I had like amassed records. And by amassed, I mean, like a high school kid, I had like maybe a dozen records. Like when you're in high school is like, a fortune. And I played the hell out of those.
Buying records, was that something that has been constant for you throughout the years? Because I know for me, for example, I was buying CDs and I was buying on average 3 CDs a week because I could not get enough.
There was the shameful dip into CDs. Yes. And I mean, okay, here's why it's shameful. Because I was so excited by this new format. And I mean, what was exciting about the format is you could get a CD player for your car. So you could listen to the same thing at home and in your car. And if you were really enjoying that Pixies record, you could just take it with you for the drive to work, which is great. And I stupidly sold a lot of records to buy CDs because it just felt like, well, this record thing is over. And then I spent a long time without a record player. I'm having a hard time remembering when that shifted again. I mean, streaming came along And I mean, I do my fair share of streaming. Streaming's fine, except for the part where, musicians don't get paid. That's a part that needs fixing. But like, for convenience, like riding the bus or, doing a thing or, at the gym, like, yeah, fire up some streaming shit. Listen to that. I'm not taking a record player on the bus with me. That's insane. There is, however, a fantastic photo of Muhammad Ali loading 7-inch singles into his car player, his 7-inch single automobile player, which everybody should look up because it's phenomenal. Something about records, like they never quite went away. I avoided them or ignored them for a long time because, CDs, and that's fine. But at some point, like I started gravitating towards records again. I was like, holy shit, this is just the physicality of it, the touching of it, the flipping over the side, the reading the liner notes. It sparked some dormant brain connections. All of a sudden, it was like, okay, yeah, we're doing this again. This time I had adult money, and that got dangerous.
There is something about the ritual of the physical object. Do you have such a ritual of how you like, okay, I'm going to listen to this record? How do you approach it?
Oh, I mean, there's absolutely like a joy that comes from like heading home with your bag of records that is unmistakably a bag with a record in it. And I've had people stop me on the street, like, what'd you get? What'd you get? Because they know it's a record in there. Especially, I mean, here in San Francisco, if you're buying records, you're probably going to Amoeba, and Amoeba has these very distinctive red and yellow bags. And you see people walking with, Amoeba bags with records all the time. So if you see somebody with an Amoeba bag, it's like, what'd you get? It happened to me a few times. Like, people are just like, what are you going to listen to? So there's like a weird community aspect of going home with a record. And then, you get home and you open it and you put it on. And the first time you listen to it, you're sitting there and you're, looking at the cover and you're reading all the words. And then you look at the liner notes. And even before that, there's always, every once in a while, there's something in a record that you don't expect to be in a record. So when you open it, you always got to like peek in, like, did they put a sticker in here? Is there a little booklet? Did they make this special somehow? So there's the joy of going through that. And then you sit there and you hold the record cover while you're listening and you read the liner notes, and that's fun. So yeah, there is a ritual to it. And then, eventually, like the record gets filed away after a few months, and it gets pulled back up at some point when you're like, oh, wait a minute, I haven't heard that in a long time. And you go looking for it, find it. But before you find it, you find another record that you haven't listened to in a while. And you're like, oh shit, I forgot I had this. And then you listen to that instead. There is, the joy of, there's nothing like going through a record bin, fingers going back and forth. The search, like that's, all of these things are important. And I can't stress this enough. This is the objectively the worst way to listen to music. I mean, my hearing is shot. I have tinnitus. So anybody who's like, well, they sound objectively better. It's like, dude, I cannot tell. I cannot tell. Trust me that when I tell you that I cannot pick up the difference. But to me, it's all about that ceremony of, going to the store, going through the bins, flip, 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 finding something you want and, staring at it for a bit. And then, looking at the price and going, $35? This shit used to be $7.98. What the fuck? And then resigning yourself to the fact that you are going to get it. And, coming home, sitting in, your favorite chair, listening to it while, you look at the artwork and you look at all the liner notes. And to me, it's the ceremony. And that ceremony is more of a time machine than anything else. Like this takes me back to when I was a kid. This takes me back to like when I was in college. This takes me back to like when, like all the old record stores that I used to go to that aren't there anymore. If you don't have that, if you grew up in a different era and this is not your thing, do not make this your thing because it's expensive as fuck and they're heavy. And if you have to move, you're kind of screwed. So this is me trying to talk you out of this habit.
I remember I'm terrible with figuring out lyrics just from listening to a song. And I would spend hours just poring over pavement liner notes trying to decipher the complete nonsense.
Oh, good luck reading that crap.
Exactly. I was walking by one of those little library that they have in the neighborhood, and someone put U2 and AC/DC CDs. And I was excited. I brought them home. I gave them to my son, who is really into music, but he has never grown up with physical media, really. And he was so not interested in that. He said, like, no, I can just go and I can stream it. Why do I need like a physical thing?
Here's the exciting thing and strange thing and thing that I haven't quite figured out. There was a time when going to the record store meant hanging out with other old dudes. Now you go to the record store and it's full of young people, like young people buying records. And I'm like, why y'all buying records? I mean, I don't ask them that because, mind your own business. Don't talk to the young people at the record store. Let them have their fun. And then I found out, I read something that said a lot of young people are buying records and not even bothering to open them. They just want to have them. And that's real curious to me. It's like they just want to have this object that's like proof of their support. Like I support this artist, so I buy their vinyl. I don't even have anything to play it on, but I just have it because it's like a show of my support. Well, and I kind of get that. It's pretty well known that, streaming fucks artists over. But I mean, we've been fucking artists over since wax cylinder days. But something about having a physical object feels like you're supporting that artist a little bit more.
So you have about 4,000 records.
About 4,000.
I have a box with 700 CDs, and I keep discovering ones that I didn't even remember I ever bought. I'm sure you have a couple of those in your collection. How do you even remember what you have when you go and buy something?
You don't. A few years ago, well, maybe this might have been pre-lockdown, but I actually got on Discogs and I sat there and I entered every record that I had. And the reason for this, which was a giant fucking pain in the ass, was because I kept going to the record store and coming back with records I already owned. I mean, that's all, well and good, a slight pain in the ass if you're doing this, in a record store in where you live. But at that point, I was like traveling a lot. And, I'd like come back from Copenhagen with a stack of records. This is like my favorite thing to do when I travel is go to record stores. But I'd come back with a stack of records and I'd be like, I'd go through them and check them and go to file it. I'm like, God damn it, I already had 2 copies of this. What? I got a third? What an idiot. And you can't return those. So I sat there and I put them all into Discogs. And now, I mean, unless something is brand new, I double check at the record store, which I'm always afraid makes me look like an asshole because here I am at a record store where I can buy a physical album and I'm looking online and I'm like, oh man, these assholes are probably think I'm looking to see if it's cheaper online. I'd say about 35% of the time I'm looking up something that, yes, I already have. So that saved me some money.
That's good. I started doing the same thing this weekend, and after 50, I need to continue some other time.
Yeah, you got to space it out.
Not to get too much into design and information architecture, but everyone has their own way of organizing their stuff.
Alphabetically. It's all alphabetical. It's the only way. I mean, it's the way that works for me. Now, what's interesting is what you do when somebody goes solo. Like, where do you put them?
Yeah. Do you put him next to the band?
Well, that to me is a vibe check. Where are you going to go looking for Robert Pollard's record? The most likely place to go looking for it is in with Guided by Voices. So that's where you put it. Now, Kim Gordon, on the other hand, Kim Gordon's put out enough solo records that now when you go looking for Kim Gordon, you go looking under Kim Gordon. Those go under G. But maybe the first Kim Gordon went in with Sonic Youth. This is a system that needs to work for exactly one person. I get to work with my own, idiosyncrasies. One time I swear to God, I spent like 2 months looking for Kate LeBon in the stacks because I could not remember if it was under L or under B. Turned out I'd put them in the wrong place completely, which is why it took 2 months. And I don't remember if they were under L or B, but it was kind of frustrating.
Was just saying that I'm putting stuff in Discogs and it drives me nuts that they put David Bowie under D.
Oh, that's the European filing. I was in Oslo recently. And here in the US in record stores, the divider that would say like David Bowie, it goes behind the David Bowie records. In Europe, it goes in front of the David Bowie records, which is very frustrating if you're, looking for something. I mean, David Bowie's obvious. You go looking in front of the David Bowie divider, and you're like, this isn't David Bowie. And you go look behind, oh, there it is. But if it's, like if it's a genre, for example, you'll find yourself in the wrong genre going, what the fuck? These little interesting things like that. Also in Europe, they let you go to the bathroom in record stores. We're just going to start griping about America now. I was in Copenhagen in one of my favorite record stores in Copenhagen. It was like a 15-minute walk to get there. And by the time I got there, I was like, God damn it, I got to pee. This kind of riveting content you get on this podcast, right, guy? So I'm like, God damn it, I got to talk these people into letting me go to the bathroom. So I very quickly went around the store and grabbed like 5 records and went up to the counter because I wanted to look like serious customer. And I was like, hey, I'm not quite done looking yet, but is it possible that me with my stack of records here, serious customer, can use your bathroom? And they just looked at me like, what's wrong with you? Of course you can use the bathroom. Meanwhile, here in town, I was at like one of my favorite tiny little record stores, which I won't name because I'm about to savage them. I was the only person in the store, and the clerk was somebody who I'm like friends with at this point because I'm in there so much. And I was like, hey, dude, can I use the bathroom? And he just looks at me like, we're not supposed to let people do that. I was like, dude, I'm the only one here. Yeah, okay, but make sure nobody sees you. There's no one here. We're hostile to people. We are so hostile to people. One of my dreams, which I may yet attain, maybe it's my retirement dream as much as I think that of that word, which is not a lot, but I want to run the perfect record store.
What is the perfect?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. I have, in all my travels and all the record stores that I've gone to, I have never been to what I considered a perfect record store. But I've seen pieces of it in different stores, like pieces that I would steal. And I've been, sometimes I dream about like putting this place together. It would be not large, but also not tiny, like a medium-sized store. There would have to be a couch, possibly 2 couches facing each other. Like I just want, like the perfect record store is a community center. This is where people go to hang out. This is where people go to learn about things. And I would want everybody to feel comfortable going into that store and be met with joy when they walked in. Like I have a question about a song that I heard the other day. I don't know who it is. I want whoever is working there, which might be me, to be like, oh, I'm so excited. Let's figure out this puzzle. That's the kind of greeting that like. I've been in so many record stores where people are made to feel like shit. When you think of like the comic book store guy from The Simpsons and that attitude, like I think that dude has like a little bit more charisma than a lot of record store clerks that I've met. Like if you think of like the record store clerks from, oh, what's that movie?
High Fidelity?
I thank you, High Fidelity. It's like that is like that store is actually pretty nice. I would get rid of everyone who worked there. I would want like people to feel comfortable going in there and asking lots of questions. Just, hey, can we play this? Absolutely, we'll play this. Have a seat. Okay, so here's my weird idea. Every month we sell 10 records. 10 records that I've picked that we will sell this month. Some of them are old, some of them are brand new. They run across all different genres. You come in, you tell me what you like, and I will pick one of those 10 records and I will put it on, and we'll see if you like it. So there's no giant backstock. There's no like, we have everything on earth. There's no like, take your used record somewhere else, please. We are here to get people excited about these 10 records. And if you don't like those 10 records, come back next month because we'll have 10 different ones. That's my idea for a record store.
I mean, it's obvious the first reason for you to have a record store is to build a community around music and not to, like, it's not the commerce of it.
You would think, right? You ever been to Amoeba in San Francisco?
I think once, yeah.
No, I mean, the place is huge. It's a little bit overwhelming. And I mean, it's great for that kind of store. For that kind of store, it's fantastic. Like if you are looking for something, they will probably have it. You go through the stacks and you find it and you take it up to the register and they check you out. And it's like, okay, transaction done, get the fuck out of here. It's that kind of store. There's other stores that feel could be a little bit more community minded, but they've got that audiophile vibe and the old guy vibe. Like optimally in my record store, there would be somebody behind the counter who is not me because I would want like the young people in the neighborhood to like walk in and be like, hey, the person who works here is somebody that I can relate to, not an old white dude with a white beard. So, maybe I'm hanging out, maybe I'm in the back doing, back stock and stuff. And the other thing that we would have is remember when you'd go to the video store, not like the Blockbuster, but like neighborhood video store, and the clerks would write these like reviews of movies that were like 10,000 words long, and they were done in like 6-point script that they would meticulously write out, and they would all be from movies that like 5 people had seen. I loved going to those places. I would sit there and like read every word of those because like this is like this is like fan fiction before fan fiction was a thing. These dudes are writing out their like cinematic thesis on these cards. And those places like just felt magical. And you were there for so long that it did turn into a community center because eventually your friends would come in because it's Friday night. You're picking out your movies for the weekend. And I mean, sure, you can get Titanic and there's 30 of them on the wall, but what the hell is this movie over here that this dude wrote a book about?
The music store that I used to go to the most was it was this used music store. It was the only place where I can get my weird lo-fi indie alternative music. And the people who worked there, you would go through the stacks and all of a sudden you see like, oh, what is this? And they would write small notes on it like, oh, do you like apples in stereo? This sounds a bit like that. And that was the recommendation engine before the internet.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of that at like Amoeba because there is one little wall of records where people have written little recommendations, but they're not as compelling as the video store recommendations used to be. And also they're just surrounded by so much stuff. You just kind of get lost in it. To me, the mood when I walk into Amoeba these days is I know the 3 things that I'm looking for. I'm going to find them, and then I'm going to check out and go home. Because otherwise it's too overwhelming. I also don't want to walk out with like $300 in records, which I will do if I spend too much time there. So it's more of an in and out situation, like going to Costco. Like when you go to Costco, you're like, okay, let's remember, we're looking for 3 things today. That's all we can fit on our bikes. We can't get more things. So you go in, you grab, and you get out. There's like Costco of record stores, it's fine. I love Costco and I love Amoeba, but it's a different vibe.
How much of your exploration do you do at the store versus knowing ahead of time, okay, that's what I want to get?
It depends on the store. If I go to Amoeba, generally it's because I know what I'm looking for. There's a couple of smaller stores in town where I'll go in just like, let's see what's here today. And they carry less stuff. It helps if you carry less stuff. The less stuff you have, the more people want to explore because their fight or flight response doesn't go up in front of so much stuff. So it's a little more calming. You need a calming environment for people to feel safe enough, like going through stacks. What's this? Check this out. So yeah, there's a couple places where I go to where it's like, let's just see what's here. Let's see what's new. And one of my favorite little shops here in San Francisco is Tunnel Records, which is way, 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 way out in the sunset. And to get there, we have to bike through Golden Gate Park and then bike through Pacific Dunes. So we're looking at the ocean. Then we go to Tunnel, and then we go next door for tacos. So that's like a whole afternoon. That's a whole afternoon experience.
Everything sounds amazing on that afternoon. Do you have any prized possession vinyl? Ones that are like, I can't believe I found this thing.
Yes, hold on. No, of course, nobody's going to see this but you.
That's fine. That's for my pleasure.
This giant box that I just pulled out.
Ooh, yes.
So this is the Beastie Boys anthology, The Sounds of Science. This came out in 2000. It was right around, I think that's right around the ill communication days. And I remember buying this on CD when it came out. So 2000 it was not vinyl times, it was CD times. I was in Paris doing a conference in Paris, and I'm, walking around, and I see this little hole in the wall record store. And I go in and always check what's on the wall. On the very, very top shelf was this. And I did not know this existed. I did not know this existed as vinyl at the time. It only came out in Europe in vinyl. So you got to play it cool, right? You got to play it cool. So I saw it and I was like, fuck, I need that. Which meant I was going to get casual. I was going to go through the stacks, like flip, 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 like do. What else might I want? Like, and then I picked out a couple of things that I was actually excited to get. And I go up to the counter, all nonchalant. He's ringing me up and I'm getting ready to pay. And I'm like, huh, how much for that? Pointing at this. I forget exactly what he quoted me, but it was high. It was a lot. It was a lot. At this point, he had pulled it down for me to look at. So I was now touching it. So I was screwed. I think it was like 300 euros or something like that. And at that point, that would have been like 450 bucks. I'm like, fuck, I'm not paying 450 bucks for that. God damn it. So I paid for the other two records, and I was like, no, this is nice, but it's too much. It's you're asking way too much for it. And I hand it back. And I start slowly walking out the door. And as I'm walking out the door, I'm like, come on, man. Come on. Come on. And finally, as I'm like 1 foot out the door, he's like, hang on. And I'm like, yes, yes. And you know how the story ends because I just showed you. I'm holding it. So I talked him down. I forget how much I talked him down to, but it was definitely something I felt better about. And that was like the happiest day ever getting a hold of this. I carried it in my hands on the plane back to the US because I did not trust it anywhere else. But yeah, that of all the records I've got, that's the one that that scene in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? Indy has to take that leap of faith into the chasm. That's how I felt walking out of that record store. It's like, this is either going to work or I'm going to die.
What's the ratio of usage of this music room between yourself and Erika?
Oh, we both use it. I mean, we both use it. I mean, you can't see it, but across from me, there's like a couch right by the windows. I'd say it's 50-50. More likely than not, I'm the one who will put a record on. But that's not always the case. There's a whole section of Erika records right there that I'm looking at right now with D-Light World Click being at the very front of it. We have a slight overlap. I have been asked, and this is fair, I have been asked not to play Sad Guys with Guitars music if she's in here. And that's probably, good overall, not to play too much sad white guys with guitars music. But I remember one time I put something, I forget, I think maybe it was the Palace Brothers. And she was like, what the fuck is this? Why are these dudes so sad? So we'll play something a little more peppy. She's in here, which, is good for my mental health. So I don't see that as a limitation.
No, it's a bonus.
Yeah, it's a bonus. Exactly.
Mike, where can people find you?
They can find me the easiest place to find me is at mikemonteiro.com, which you will spell wrong the first 3 times you try to go to it. It's E before I, like neighbor. And there's a listing of lots of things that I do on there. But mostly I would encourage people to sign up for my newsletter, because then I come to you every week with something hopefully interesting.
Something usually heartbreaking to some degree, but also very hopeful.
I try. So every week, if I can do a little promo here, every week I answer a question that somebody sends me. The question is generally, it's what people are concerned about. but also what I might be in the mood to answer. You can only answer so many questions about AI and people losing their jobs, which is sadly the majority of questions that I get right now are on those two topics, which is understandable. Hopefully, it's also understandable why I don't tackle those two questions every week. So, I try to mix it up. Every week I answer a question from somebody. It's a real question, although some people do ask to be anonymous for, reasons. And it just comes to your inbox. It is not on Substack because I am not a Nazi and I don't play with Nazis. It's on Button Down, which is just fine. And there is a new book, which is a compilation of some of those stories. Hey, look, you got one. And that's How to Die and Other Stories. It's a rivetingly hopeful title.
And if you buy it, you actually get a folded paper with a bonus story in there.
You want to know the history of the folded story?
I do.
My editor, who is a wonderful human being, and this is not meant as a slight on her at all, would not read that story because she saw the title. And I said, I cannot even read this. For reasons that you'll understand if you actually see the story. You're like, I totally get that. So I had to have somebody else edit it. It actually turned into a feature because now it's like this little secret thing that you find tucked into the book, but only if you buy it from me. Because if you buy it from like an online store or a regular bookstore, I am not there to tuck in the secret story.
And Erika's not there to put stickers on it.
That's right.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
Guy, I hope this was worthwhile.
It's worth my while, and that's all that matters.
I had fun. I love talking about this stuff. I love slamming audiophiles. If you take one thing away from this, however you enjoy music is the right way for you to enjoy music.
I think that applies to a lot of things.
Yeah.
This is all for this episode of Design Downtime. Thank you for joining me. And until next time, I hope you enjoy your downtime.